Welcome back, everybody. Today we're doing a deep dive on Elon Musk.
Yeah.
I was looking at stuff he sent over, and when I saw that 5-minute rule thing, I have to admit I was a little thrown. I mean, is that genius or just crazy?
Yeah, it does make you wonder. Breaking your entire day into 5-minute chunks to be more efficient?
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds pretty intense.
Yeah, and that's Elon Musk, I guess. I mean,
Yeah.
this is the guy who's building rockets to go to Mars. Maybe intense is just how he rolls.
Well, so this 5-minute rule, it's basically like time boxing on steroids.
Huh?
Like that time management thing where you allocate certain blocks of time for different tasks. It's supposed to help you focus and avoid distractions. But taking it to Elon's level, scheduling every 5 minutes, that is definitely taking things to the extreme.
Yeah, okay. Time boxing makes sense to a point, but how does this actually work in practice for him? Does he really set a timer every 5 minutes?
I doubt it's that literal. Probably more of a mental framework for prioritizing and allocating his time. We know that he's juggling a million things at once. So having a system to make sure each thing gets the attention it needs, even if it's just a quick check-in, could it be what makes him so effective?
Interesting. So it's not about being a robot, really. It's about having a structure to manage a crazy schedule. But what about this whole 8,100-hour work week thing? Is that even possible?
It's a good question. And even Elon seems to struggle with it a bit. He said, if you love what you do, it doesn't feel like work. But he's also said that hustle culture is toxic. So there's definitely a tension there.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, on the one hand, he's like the ultimate example of hard work and dedication. But then he's also warning people about burning out. It seems kind of contradictory. Or is there something more to it?
Well, I think Elon sees the risks of working too much. But he also seems to believe that achieving his goals requires pushing those boundaries. Maybe it's a calculated risk, accepting the downsides to make progress.
Pushing boundaries, even if it means no clear line between work and life. That's an interesting perspective. Okay, let's bring it back to our listeners for a second. I mean, we're probably not launching rockets or digging tunnels anytime soon, so could any normal person actually use this 5-minute rule?
Oh, definitely. Time boxing can be really helpful. Even if you don't go to Elon's extreme, it's about being intentional with your time. Dedicate specific blocks of time for tasks, minimize distractions, consciously move through your day with a purpose. And I mean, that's something anyone can do, whether you're working on a big project, trying to learn something new, or just getting through your to-do list.
Okay, so maybe we don't need to schedule bathroom breaks every 5 minutes. But being intentional with our time, that's a good takeaway for anyone.
Okay, but let's move on from productivity hacks to something a little more cosmic. Elon's not just about optimizing his day. He's about shaping the future, like his secret master plan for Tesla. That was pretty audacious. Yeah, it was more than just a business plan. It was about disrupting the whole car industry and moving us towards sustainable energy. It wasn't just about selling cars. It was about changing the world.
And the way it unfolded was so clever. Like, he starts with this super expensive sports car, the Tesla Roadster, right? Not really a car for everyday people, but it got people talking and brought in money. And then he uses that to make a more affordable car, the Model S, bringing electric cars to more people. And all along, the plan was to make even more affordable cars.
Exactly. It was a deliberate strategy. He had to show that electric vehicles could be cool and high performance before he could convince the world that they could also be practical and affordable. It was a long game, and it worked.
And his vision goes way beyond Earth, too.
Right.
With SpaceX, the goal is literally to make life multiplanetary. What does that even mean, practically?
It means building a self-sustaining human colony on Mars. It's incredibly ambitious, and there are so many challenges. Developing the technology and figuring out how humans can survive in that environment.
So planting a flag on Mars isn't enough. It's about building a whole new civilization.
Exactly. And it goes back to that long-term thinking we were talking about before. It's not about immediate results. It's about building the foundation for a future where humanity isn't stuck on just one planet. It's a vision that goes way beyond our lifetimes.
Speaking of going beyond lifetimes, you know that quote of his, "I'd like to die on Mars, just not on impact." You gotta admire the dedication.
Yeah. It shows you how committed he is.
Yeah.
And how willing he is to push boundaries, even if other people think it's crazy. But it does make you wonder, why Mars? Why not go somewhere a bit closer to home, a little less dangerous?
Yeah, that's a good question. What is it about Mars that captures people's imaginations? Maybe we can dive into that more later. But first, I think we need to talk about those crazy goals of his. Because when it comes to setting the bar high, Elon doesn't just clear it, he launches himself over it with a rocket.
Yeah. He definitely doesn't shy away from aiming high, even if it means facing setbacks and criticism along the way.
Like the Tesla Cybertruck, right? Announced back in 2021, and it's 2023 now, and it's still not on the road. Is that bad planning or just what happens when you aim for the moon? Or Mars, I guess.
Probably a combination of factors. Making something truly new, especially in the car industry, is never easy. But what makes Elon different is that he's willing to accept failure as part of the process. He iterates quickly, even if it means public setbacks. He'd rather try fail and learn than get stuck overthinking things.
So the key is being okay with things blowing up, literally and figuratively, because there were some literal explosions in the early days of space.
Oh yeah, for sure. They had 3 rockets fail before they finally succeeded with the Falcon 1 launch. It takes a certain amount of grit to keep going after so many setbacks.
He's like playing a video game on expert mode. Failure is just part of the game. But the real question is, how can we apply that mindset in our own lives? We're not building spaceships, most of us.
Well, it's about seeing failure differently. Instead of a sign of defeat, it's feedback. Ask yourself, what went wrong? What can I learn? How can I change my approach and try again?
So it's less about avoiding failure and more about embracing it as part of learning. But honestly, that's easier said than done, right? We're wired to fear failure.
Of course. But if you're not pushing your limits, if you're not taking risks, are you really growing? Real innovation. It means getting outside your comfort zone, experimenting. And yes, sometimes failing.
So those early SpaceX rocket failures, it's amazing to think that those mistakes were actually important to their success.
It is interesting, isn't it? Elon said, failure is an option here. If things are not failing, you're not innovating enough. So it's not just about accepting those setbacks. It's about seeing them as information opportunities to learn and get better.
Okay, but how do you apply that in everyday life? Most people aren't launching rockets.
It's about how you see failure. See it as feedback instead of a defeat. Ask yourself, what went wrong? What can I learn? How can I adjust and try again?
So don't avoid failure. Embrace it as part of the learning process. But it's tough to actually do that, right? It's natural to be afraid of failing.
It is. But think about this. If you're not pushing yourself, if you're not taking risks, are you really growing? Real innovation. It usually means you got to get out of your comfort zone. Experiment.
Yeah.
And yeah, sometimes you'll fail.
Okay, I'm starting to see the appeal of that. But back to Elon. It's not just accepting failure. It's about setting those big goals.
Exactly. Remember that quote about dying on Mars? It's not just a funny thing to say. It shows a belief in setting those really ambitious goals. It's about challenging how we think and pushing what we think is possible.
So it's not just about small improvements. It's about trying to do something big, something that could change the world.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be Elon or SpaceX. This moonshot thinking, you can use it anywhere. Find a problem you care about solving, then try to imagine a totally different solution.
Okay, but how can we translate this to our own lives? Most of us aren't trying to go to Mars or build self-driving cars.
What's your Mars? What's that big, crazy goal that makes you excited, scares you a little? Seems impossible, but really meaningful. It doesn't have to be as big as Elon's stuff. It just needs to be something that pushes you.
I like that. Finding your Mars. It's a cool way to think about goals. It's not just about a to-do list. It's about doing something with a purpose, something that makes you passionate.
And remember, it's not just about getting to the end. It's the journey, the challenges, the setbacks, the times you doubt yourself. It all shapes you, teaches you, and helps you grow.
That's a good point. It's not about being perfect. It's about the messy process of progress. But let's talk about the Tesla Cybertruck. We said its delayed launch is a kind of a stumble for Elon. Is this his vision failing or just a bump in the road?
Well, even the best ideas face real-world problems. Something as complex as the Cybertruck. There will be obstacles, technical challenges, maybe even changes in what people want.
So even with his money and experts, Elon still runs into problems bringing a product to market. It shows that innovation isn't always a smooth ride.
Exactly. And that's where that resilience we talked about comes in. It's not about avoiding setbacks. It's about being flexible and determined to keep going, even when things are hard.
So maybe the real lesson from the Cybertruck isn't about the truck itself. It's about the mindset. Be willing to learn, change direction, and keep going for that vision even when you hit obstacles.
Yes. And it's a lesson that goes beyond electric cars. It's for anyone who wants to achieve a hard goal. Starting a business, writing a book, learning a new skill. You'll hit bumps in the road, but it's how you deal with them that decides your success.
So it's not just about the wins. It's about how you handle the losses. You need that toughness to pick yourself up and keep moving forward.
Yeah, and that's something we can learn from Elon. Even if we don't agree with everything he does, it's about that commitment to pushing boundaries, even when things get messy.
I like that. Being okay with the mess, knowing that stumbling and failing can lead to the best breakthroughs. But it's not all about Elon.
Right.
There are tons of people and companies driven by that same spirit of innovation.
Definitely. Think about the pioneers in any field: science, art, technology, social change. They all faced resistance, setbacks, and critics. But they kept going because they had a vision, a belief in a better future.
So it's about seeing that this mindset, this drive to change things and push for progress, it's not just Elon Musk, it's in all of us.
Exactly. And there's no perfect way to do it. It's about finding your own path, embracing your own crazy, and going after what you believe in with passion and determination.
This is so inspiring. But before we get carried away, I think we need to take a minute to think about everything we've talked about. We've covered a lot: productivity, goals, embracing failure. How do we make all of this something our listeners can actually use?
That's a good question, and it's one we'll get into more after we take a minute to reflect. When we come back, we'll explore how to take these ideas and turn them into real strategies for setting bigger goals, overcoming challenges, and creating a more fulfilling and impactful life.
All right, so we're back and ready to wrap things up. We've been all over Elon Musk's world, from 5-minute schedules to making humans multiplanetary. That's a lot to take in.
It is. We've covered some complex stuff, but I think there are some key takeaways that everyone can use, whether you're starting a business or just want to make a difference.
Okay, so let's break it down. If you had to pick 3 things we learned from Elon, what would they be?
Well, first, that focus on making the most of your time. Remember that 5-minute rule. Maybe it's not for everybody, but the idea is to be intentional with your time, cut out distractions, and work on the things that matter most to you.
So it's not about being a robot, it's about being mindful of how you spend your time. We could all use a little more focus in our lives. What's the second one?
Thinking big, like Tesla's goal of sustainable energy or SpaceX wanting to put people on Mars. It's about imagining a different future and then setting goals that match that vision.
So don't be afraid to dream big, even if it sounds crazy at first.
Right. Don't let doubt or fear hold you back. Embrace the challenge. Break those huge goals down into smaller steps and just start moving toward them.
I like that. Breaking big things into smaller steps. It reminds you that even the biggest achievements start with one small step. Okay, so what's number 3?
Number 3, and maybe the most important, is that failure is part of innovation. Remember those SpaceX rockets blowing up? They weren't just failures, they were lessons. That helped them do amazing things.
So you change how you look at failure. It's not losing, it's feedback.
Yes. And it's not just about accepting it. It's about looking for it, pushing your limits, experimenting, being willing to take risks. That's how you really grow.
So you're saying get comfortable with the idea of failing, especially if you're trying to do something new.
Exactly. It's not just about Elon Musk. These are things you see in a lot of successful people. It's about being tough, flexible, and never giving up.
So don't try to be Elon Musk. Learn from how he thinks, how he faces challenges, and how much he believes in human potential.
Find your own Mars. What's important to you? Set goals that reflect your values and go after them with everything you've got.
The journey matters just as much as the destination. Embrace the tough parts, the setbacks, and the times you doubt yourself. They all help you grow.
And we all have the power to make a difference in the world, no matter who you are or what you have.
So as we finish up our deep dive, I'll leave you with this. What impossible dream will you chase? What impact will you make on the world?
Remember, human potential is limitless. With a little courage, a lot of determination, and a willingness to embrace the unknown, you can achieve anything you set your mind to.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Keep learning, keep exploring, and keep reaching for the